Nic and Matt from Salty Bulldog are here to help preview the weekend's game, guys. So let's get straight into it. So welcome back, guys. Another preview podcast here. Big game against the Bulldogs coming up, and we've gone out and we've found the best Bulldog minds the streets can find. So we've got Nic and Matthew from the Salty Bulldog here. Thank you for your time, guys. Thank you for jumping on.
Always a pleasure, Josh. Thank you for having us.
How you doing, gents?
Going very well, mate. Ready for some deep Bulldogs chat. Now, I don't know much about the Bulldogs, but one thing I do seem to know about the Dogs is sometimes they look very, very, very good, and sometimes they don't look so good. So maybe I'll direct some questions here so we know who to go. We'll go with Matthew then. How have you been feeling about the Bulldogs recently? What's the form like currently?
Recently, I'm really confident in what the Bulldogs are building and the direction they're heading. I certainly appreciate the inconsistency tag that's been placed on them, and certainly in the previous 24 months, that is very accurate. That 1 week you'll have a very good side, and the next you could have a team that can slip up to some of the lower teams in the competition. But I think if we're just looking at recent form, there's been a great deal of consistency and some really encouraging performances. If you look at the last month and a half, there's been 5 really good performances and 1 disappointing performance against Brisbane, which there were a few minor sort of excuses that all sort of combined into the performance that we saw with injuries, fatigue, Brisbane coming off the bye. And not one of those things is an excuse, but combined, they all sort of played a role in that game. But other to that, the form against some pretty high caliber opposition has been really encouraging. Beat Collingwood, pushed Sydney, beat the Giants on the road, belted the Dockers. There's some pretty good sides, and they've shown some really good form. So I really like what they're building, and I think we're starting to see the fruits of that hard labor in the last 6 weeks. It's just a matter of pushing through to the end of the season now.
Yeah. No, that's sort of how I saw it as well. I feel like I don't feel like I've seen the Bulldogs sort of be towed up by anyone recently. We'll swing over to Nic here. What are your sort of expectations, I guess, for the rest of the year? Where do you see this side sort of finishing, or like in the 8, challenging top 4, maybe missing out? Where do you sort of see the Dogs at the moment?
It's a very good question here, Josh, to raise that. And Matt and I have had many a discussion about, probably the fate of the Dogs over the course of the next 9 matches. And, we're very much capable of, in my view at least, there's a couple of difficult games for sure, namely the Swans match and the Carlton game in about a month or so, where, again, it's either going to be 50-50 or quite likely a possible loss in that sense. But every other game in between or after those things or prior to, we should feel every right of being confident enough of at least, saying we're a real chance for the 4 points here. And I think at our best, we could arguably go, and this sounds a bit of overconfidence possibly, but we could arguably go 7-2 and, put ourselves in the frame for 14 wins, and which would, give us a shot for a home final, maybe either 5th or 6th place. And, if, the cards fall your way, possibly even a 4th place, but I think that's pushing it. At our worst, it could probably be, again, going with a 4-5 record, and maybe even 3-6 if things really go a bit AWOL. But I think from what Matt alluded to before, there seems to be a little bit more trust again, or a little bit more consistency and reliability over at least the past half a dozen, 7 or so matches, and even across the course of this year. I wouldn't say there's been too many poor performances. Last year was probably certainly the case where we'd have a major bad day at the office. This year, if we are to have been blown away or, fall short, it's been probably due to a bad 10 minutes, a bad 15 minutes, which is enough, of course, in this competition. But, I think there's still reason for optimism with what can be done. So should be making the 8 and arguably could at least get to the second week of the finals.
Yeah, okay. No, that's fair enough. I think especially with the list that the Dogs have, I mean, it's sort of pretty stacked all over the park. I'll split this question in half then. So Matt, we'll go to you. I'll ask you what do you think the Bulldogs do really well, and then we'll throw to Nic. And what do you think you guys do poorly to make the form of recent be good, but maybe not be entrenched in the finals?
What do we do really well? It's quite well balanced. There's been a lot of standouts across all lines this year, but we score really well. I think if I'm going to go with an obvious sort of with an obvious facet of the game, we score really well. We actually spoke about this off the back of the Fremantle game, which was comfortably our highest score of the year. We credited the work that Matt Spanger has done, the Bulldogs forward coach, who's not always been a particularly popular figure among the Bulldogs fan base, certainly even on our own podcast. And admittedly, he's been blessed with a wealth of talent to deal with, but he's still got to get it all to click. And it looks like he has over the course of the season. When you look at some of the individual campaigns that the forwards are having, Aaron Norton was probably, I would say, the All-Australian centre forward prior to his knee injury. If he may not have been, he was certainly the most well-rounded of the key forwards in the competition. I think he might have been 10th in the Coleman, but among those top 10, he was the most accurate goal kicker. He was leading the top 10 group for goal assists and score involvements as well. So he wasn't just kicking goals, but he was actually playing a key role in setting them up as well. Sam Darcy has come on in leaps and bounds this year as well. I think he was equal 10th in the Coleman when he got suspended as well, which for a kid who hasn't even played a full season yet was remarkable. Cody Waitman spent a fair bit of time injured this year, but is probably one of the premier small forwards in the competition and demonstrated that again last start. Riley West has been a huge surprise packet. He's been a bit more of a negating forward, really putting clamps on the opposition interceptors. And then there's Jamari Ugle-Hagan, who we probably haven't even seen the best of yet either. But we know the ceiling that he's had. And I think the Dogs are second in the league for points scored behind only Sydney. So when you've got a forward line like that, when they're all back, and Darcy will be back this week, Norton might, it gives you a chance. You know, you're very confident that every week you can kick a score that might be enough to get you over the line. So it does make a big difference.
What about you, Nick? What do you reckon you do that maybe doesn't get you over the line sometimes?
Things that we do well that doesn't always necessarily work. Well, at least probably what we've seen this year and probably at stages of last year. So it's a bit of a trend where in the past we've been a little bit reliant on a set trio of players to do the bulk of the clearance work. And and that was probably no more on display than the Cats match earlier this year. Up a gather round, of course, at Adelaide Oval. And I think it was just Libber, Bont and Treloar took up about probably 95%, not only of the actual stoppages, but they were the ones that won the bulk of the clearances there. Now, that's not an issue having those three per se, but, if things were to go a little bit astray, if one of them's having a poor game, one of them's getting tagged out of it, we've seen what Will Phillips has been able to produce the last few respective matches there and been able to put the clamps on. So no doubt one of those three will be a likely target, maybe even Ed Richards, of course, on our end. So I think probably from our side, it's on occasions this year, the inability to generate enough scores via stoppage play across the ground, be it from the centre square, be it from a throw-in or around the grounds. But I think the main specific issue has been probably stopping defensive to forward 50 transition, at least in our end. We tend to always, play pretty high up the ground defensively across it with a weird looking 18-man zone. And sometimes we're able to, have our players be in awkward positions should there happen to be a turnover. And North Melbourne, in my view, forget where they're sitting and all that stuff and things, but they've been generally pretty solid, I think, in terms of moving the ball from the back half of the ground forward. They've just been had problems, generating those scores, but there's enough opportunities. And against us, if we provide those opportunities or give those opportunities to opposition teams, I don't know whether we're still well structured enough to prevent, one, the transition, and two, the scores that are generated from those turnovers in our front half. So I think it's something for us to watch out for and something that North Melbourne can exploit with their talented brigade.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, that was sort of leading on to my next question as well is have you guys sort of watched much of North, especially after the bye? Because we've really, I can't even believe the difference of how we're playing out of the bye. I think the last 3 or 4 weeks, I think a stat got thrown up with the number 2 clearance team and the number 1 pressure team in the league. And I couldn't even believe the difference since the bye. maybe I'll throw to you, Matt, then, like, what have you seen from North Melbourne in the last few weeks or since the bye? And what do you think about the changes that we've made? Is it obviously makes you maybe a little bit more nervous going into the game, but what do you think of our recent form?
Yeah, so I've watched North particularly closely over the last couple of weeks, as it so happened. So I saw them against Collingwood, and I thought they were fantastic. They were clearly fantastic, particularly in the first three quarters. And yes, it got away from them in the last, and they still very nearly pinched it in the end. And the game against Melbourne actually tipped North, which I probably felt I was very much in the minority for that one. But I thought the way that Melbourne and North were projecting, I thought there was a lot more upside with North Melbourne. And I've had big raps on a couple of their players for a very, very long time. And Nic will attest to this as well. I'm a huge fan of Nick Larkey. Absolutely love him. I reckon if he's playing even in a side that's featuring the top 14 or 15, he's probably got a Coleman to his name now. And I think I probably love him a little bit too much if you speak to some Bulldog supporters, given who I would take him in favour of. But I just think
give us the hot take then. Who is it?
I said if you line him up against a wall right now, I'd pick him ahead of Jamara.
I agree. I agree with you, mate. I really quickly, like, I've had a bit of a controversial take on here. I think Jamarra Ugle-Hagan maybe is one of the, not yet, because he can be a star. We know the guy's potential, but I'll probably expected a little bit more from him in his short career so far, but maybe hasn't hit the heights of the potential that I thought he has. I think Darcy's definitely overtaken him as a threat, how I feel about it. And Norton, I don't know. Norton's either going to kick 7 or kick none, I feel like sometimes. So I don't know. I think Larkey consistently is better, but I think Ugle-Hagan maybe has the highest ceiling, but I maybe haven't seen the spark from him yet. He's had patches and moments, but I'd maybe like someone with that amount of talent to be a little bit more consistent.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think we're all expecting Jamarra to kick on this year a little bit more than what he has. But I think with Larkey, to be able to mark the ball and to be able to kick straight, they're two very simple things. Yes. But for a key forward, if you can do that, and particularly in a side that like North Melbourne that's really struggled, to kick as many goals as he has is a huge tick in his favour. The other one I love in the middle is Luke Davies-Uniacke.
Oh,
I love the way that he plays, and I know he'll become particularly hot property over the next 18 months. If there's an opportunity for the Dogs there, and I'm not saying there is, I'm speaking hypothetically here, there's the perfect post-Liberatore footballer as the inside player, and he will cost a fair pretty penny, I know. But I just love the way that he plays, and I feel like those two have a lot of people jumping on for the ride as well. I mean, WARDLAW and Sheasel are very much the future of the club, and I know there's others in the wings as well. McKirch is slowly coming back from injuries, another one you can add in there as well. But I love the resolve that North have shown over the last couple of weeks. They feel like a more trustworthy side, which is not really a stat or a trait that you can measure, but they've been challenged. And I know it didn't quite work with them against Collingwood, but they were challenged against Melbourne, and it could have been very easily a big Melbourne win and fade away and drift out, but they fought back really hard and nearly pinched it at the end. So I think their ability to stay in games has been quite noticeable in the last couple of weeks, and it will hold them in good stead going forward if they can continue to do that.
So, Nic, with the form that we've sort of shown after the bye, how are you sort of feeling about this upcoming game? We won't get a tip or anything from you just yet. We'll save that to the end. But how are you sort of feeling about us going into the game? What's an area maybe you think we could exploit? I guess you did sort of say the transition off halfback, but does it make you a bit more nervous, or what do you think we could do against you guys in this game?
That's a good question there, Josh, because a few days ago, probably after the match itself against the D's for you guys, I was probably thinking, this is one of those danger games, and that's probably been the case for the D's, even in that sense, and even prior to the week before that, where you sense something's different here about North. And again, on our ends, it sort of just depends the attitude we tend to bring into games, whether we tend to underestimate or whether with us, you'll know within the first 5 to 10 minutes whether we're on or not. So we could be playing, we might appear to be scoring quite well, but for instance, we might not be playing properly, and then that'll reflect as the game goes on, where the numbers will balance out, and then we'll just play pretty poorly. But I think with probably what's going on, do I feel confident? I feel like, look, considering how we've gone in the last 6 weeks, I should feel a bit more relative at ease, considering what's been happening. There seems to be, again, a bit more trust with us. But I've mentioned to Matt over a number of episodes, I've got 2 particular tests, and they are credibility and reliability. And at the moment, we've shown, what we're capable of against, high caliber sides, and, the credentials about what we can achieve. But that trust factor is still needing a little bit more, to be passed in that sense and to be accepted, because even more too, coincidentally, our record at Marvel in recent times probably hasn't been as crash hot. Even the last dozen or so matches, we're only going 6-6 there. And in our view, we've lost to a couple of, pretty poor sides across the board. Like, we're very disappointed, and Matt was pretty lucky to not witness the West Coast debacle last year.
Oh, yeah. I was out of town for that.
You were certainly, you weren't even out of town. You were completely another continent.
That was a good time to skip out.
Yeah, lots of Bulldogs fans wish they were there with you, mate, I reckon.
No doubt.
I could have buried myself in a hole that day, but that's what it is. So there's a lot of things to take in. And again, this presents an opportunity for us to, again, get the job done. But probably I think we might be in a little bit of better shape than Melbourne has at the moment. North Melbourne's intercept game on the weekend was quite well. And I think that's also due to Melbourne's lack of genuine, key forwards in that sense. They've got options, or a couple of options in Van Rooyen, and of course Cobden had what did he do? Is sign another 3-year deal for you guys or such to the end of 27.
Today.
So
yep,
fantastic news there for the Roos. But considering the tall timber that we've got and the mobility that a lot of those guys like Norton, like Darcy, like Jamara, and dare I say, what Rory Lobb can provide when he's able to do so, it probably might make it a little bit too tricky in the sense of getting that intercept game up, which again would allow you guys to provide that run and gun from half back and catch us out. So, I think as the week probably goes on, a little bit more confident as I get. But, these are the types of games that if we're it sounds a bit weird, if we're a serious sort of team, we shouldn't be having trepidations or hesitations. The fans maybe, but the club itself should say, look, this is a clear-cut game. We know what we've got to do. Let's go out there and execute, We shouldn't be nervous per se. And, but then again, football's a strange thing, as is many codes across the world.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's a good point to touch on as well. Maybe the part that I'm the most worried for about the Dogs, and I'll get your insight on this, but I'm very worried about the forward line for the Dogs. I think it's incredibly strong, but it is quite tall, and like a Rory Lobb, I guess maybe it depends if Norton plays. I mean, all the word I've heard is he's going to play, but you guys are probably more informed than me. I mean, Darcy is obviously going to come straight back in, Jamara, and if Lobb's there, I mean, that's 4 very tall players. I've criticised us the last few weeks of going too tall with Toby Pink. Callan Dawson for us will come back in, who I think has been really good this year. Charlie Comben is going to play, and Aiden Core. It's very, very tall. Do you guys think that you'll go with the 4 talls in the forward line? Because I guess with English playing as well, I don't know how the balance works for you guys. Obviously, the Dogs have been a massive bogey side for us over the last few years. I mean, we made Josh Bruce look like prime Fraser Gehrig, and that's one I'd like to put out of my mind. I feel like you've done us by 100 every second game we've played you for the last 5 years. I don't know if that stat's true, but it feels like it. Waitman has a field day.
6-0 the last few matches here, Josh. For us, it is in recent times by an average of 59 points.
Yeah, that's not, that doesn't look good for us. And look, I think it definitely as a North fan feels like we're the strongest unit that we've been in probably especially since Brad Scott. Like the Reece Shaw, I mean, that was a bit of fun. David Noble was the worst time of my football supporting life. First year at Clarkson, up and down, obviously, because he was only there half the time. And then this season's sort of the same, like post-bye. I feel like I don't think we'll get blown out because I don't feel like we're that team anymore. But, I'm very scared of the forward line for you guys. Matthew, we'll throw to you. Like, what do you think the forward structure will be? Say all of them are available. Do you go with Lobb, Norton, Jamara, and Darcy up there? Or what do you think you guys might do?
No, so if they're all available, they won't all play. They'll go with a maximum of 3. They have experimented with 4 in the past, and it's been a disaster. So they won't revert to that.
Yeah,
it would be desperately unlucky and it would probably be Lobb who would be first out if they're all available. And I say unlucky because he's coming off probably his best game for the Dogs. He was excellent against Freo, and he does have the tendency to, over the course of the year, just chuck in 1 or 2 of those performances just as soldiers are coming back that give you a bit of pause for thought. But he's not picked ahead of Darcy and Norton if they're all lined up against a wall. And Ugle-Hagan kicked 3, so you're probably not going to drop him either. So no, that's the simple answer, that if they're all available, they don't all play, and it would probably be Norton, Darcy, and Ugle-Hagan, and Lobb the unlucky 4th option, because you need that balance in the forward line as well. And it feels like they've struck a decent balance between the talls and the smalls. I sort of mentioned earlier, Riley West has made a name for himself as that sort of that player that ties down the interceptor. He did an excellent job against Ryan and last start against the Dockers. He's done roll-offs on other players as well. Latham Vandermeer's been a bit of a whipping boy, but has found a bit of a role, and with a bit of continuity has probably helped as well in terms of playing week to week and not getting injured. And then there's the potential for somebody like a James Harms to return even. And the other one's Cody Waitman, who's back in the side. So none of them are probably going to go out either. So it would be, as a starting 6, it'll probably be 3-3 in terms of 3 talls, 3 smalls. They won't play all 4 of them. The only reason all 4 of them play is if English is out for whatever reason. And then you chuck in a Darcy or a Lobb there. But as a forward line structure, it'll be a maximum of 3.
Yeah, okay. Well, that makes a lot of sense. Nic, I'll ask you a question here. Rory Lobb, right? So obviously I think he asked for a trade or is going to ask for a trade. I'm not exactly sure if it's official or not. He's a player that I don't know. I don't know him personally, obviously, but I would assume potentially next year at a 4th club means he's part of the problem with maybe an attitude issue or something like that, because I think it's rare you're at 4 different clubs and you're not a part of the problem. For North Melbourne, I haven't heard him rumoured to us at all, but he is the exact type of player that we are missing. I think our number one, if you asked me a month ago, maybe would have been different, where I think a big body in and under mid is probably what we need. As much as we've got too many midfielders, we just don't have that big bully. Key position defenders, I think everyone outside North Melbourne thinks we need one, but I think we're pretty sorted, especially with Griffin Logue coming back, Charlie Comben being so good, and Callan Dawson playing so well. What do you make of Rory, and maybe what do the Bulldogs fans see the issue as? Do they see it as him? And is that someone that if a North did pick them up, because I think he should be on our radar, should we be worried that we're having someone there with maybe a slight attitude issue or something like that?
Now, not from my understandings, at least. I don't think there's any sort of negative rumblings within the club itself for Lobb's position. I think it's been, at least on a media sense, it seems like it's been a bit of a witch hunt. But I think internally, I'm pretty sure that everything seems to be like not kumbaya, but there's been a lot of open air and honesty about the conversations that are being held, whether it is for Lobb potentially sussing options. I know there was obviously discussions last year even too for other clubs that are just, knocking on his own door too. So, it goes both ways in that sense, where clubs are, probably considering him as an option, whether it's this year or from last year, or again, on his own radar to do what's good for him as well. And, you can't begrudge that in that sense. He obviously took the 4-year deal with us, and that might have been probably part and parcel where we added that extra 4th year to give him that element of security, considering there was talented options like Jamara, in this case, entering his 4th year, Darcy entering his 3rd year, and that these guys would be the ones that would be prioritised over him. And, you can't blame us in that sense, but you can't blame Rory as well, I think. And as an option, as a footballer, I do think he's never been an amazing footballer, but I do think he is a bit one of those underappreciated types in terms of the role that he can play. There's probably not many, it's not saying this is not a top shelf footballer, but how many top shelf ruck forwards are there going across the competition? There's maybe only a dozen across the comp that would probably put their role and their best foot forward in that sense. And Lobb's not the worst one at it. For a player that's been what he has for a number of years. He's still been able to produce, give or take, 150 odd games of football, 170 something goals, give or take, a bit around those sort of numbers. And in this particular industry, even though players, and even I'm been guilty of saying, the taller players, of course, get a bit longer and they get a bit more protection. But clubs aren't stupid. If a player's not pulling their weight, they're not going to hold on to someone, or even within the industry, for 10 or so years, 11 years. They would have had their number marked a while ago. And I think maybe there might have been a little bit of bad blood with the Freo side of things, maybe. But that's just my own opinion in that sense. I don't think there was anything wrong from the Giants, and I don't think there's anything probably to focus in a negative light on our end, because I do think that there's still a lot of respect and care displayed for Rory across his teammates, and as well as the coaching staff. And whether he remains with us is another question. But again, clubs that are out there, they'd be able to get at least another couple of years, and even for you guys, provide a bit of support for Larky in that sense, to get a bit of a chop out for Tristan Xerri, who, in my view, really should be in AA contention. If not the 40-man, he could be pushing for the 22, 23, whatever it is. Like, he's got incredible numbers as a ruckman for clearances across it. I think he's only second behind Kieran Briggs for clearances for rucks across this season. And, for our lad, Matt, Tim Inglis has only got about 50 odd. So it would be nice if he could pull a few more. So that's one part of the ground I'm a little bit concerned about this week, seeing as Xerri's quite physical and, quite mobile in that sense. But no, I don't think there's anything bad to worry about with Rory there in that sense. And again, as long as the conversations are open and honest, and again, it depends on what he's trying to achieve, what the club's trying to achieve. So I do think it's something that can be done pretty amicably.
Yeah, okay, because he's definitely a player that I would hope is on North's radar, because I think that is our biggest hole. We picked up Bryn Teakle in the mid-season, and he's been really, really good. Nothing incredibly flashy, but just a really solid, clean hands. I don't know if you guys watched the Melbourne game, but he had a little handball while laying on the ground to Zerha, which then unlocked LDU, and he kicked a goal. And when I found out that was Bryn Teakle on the ground, I'm like, wow, that's we found someone who can contribute. But I think obviously Rory Lobb's ceiling would be a little bit higher than a Bryn Teakle's. My next question, you sort of touched on, Nick, where I was going to ask what an area of the ground is, or how do you think North might be able to expose the Bulldogs? I know we've talked about the halfback thing, but you mentioned sort of the ruck situation there. Matthew, I'll go to you. What's another area you sort of think maybe North could get on top of the Bulldogs this week?
Well, they do match up quite well around ground. And I mean, it sort of comes back to what I was saying a little earlier about North have shown a lot of improvement in all areas. I think as Bulldogs supporters, we're generally historically always quite terrified of opposition key forwards, that they treat us as the fill your boots type opponent. And, with some of the praise I heaped on Nick Larky earlier, as good as Liam Jones is, key forwards playing against the Bulldogs are always susceptible to having a bit of a day out. It's the same
as us, mate. Once again, we made Josh Bruce look like a superstar, so I get you.
This is a very good point that you do make, and I do love the options we've got up forward, as I've already mentioned. But yeah, I suppose, Nick Larky is sort of where most of your goals are likely to come from. The other one would be Cam Zerha. I'd be trying to think of what would be the Dogs' ideal defensive matchup on him, and there's no name that immediately comes to mind. He's a rather unique forward in that respect, and that he's quite strong aerially, but then when the ball hits the ground, he's still very much in the contest. And what defender do we have that could go with him? And he's probably playing the best football of his career as well.
I think Nick's got an answer for this.
I think he does too.
One out, mate.
Yeah, the only player that probably could realistically go in terms of a medium-sized footballer like Zerha who's got good power and speed, would probably be Bailey Williams. The only issue is he's playing probably arguably career best football on the wing this year. And he made a name for himself, of course, a few years ago as one of those dangerous mid-sized defenders that could intercept yet still possess enough attacking play in his game. And that's probably the only realistic option, because that's an absolute, you were speaking before about having, a missing option for you guys in potentially like Rory Lobb. And that's something that we haven't got as that medium-sized defender that is able to play potentially on the third tall forward, or again, sort of like a mixture of a crumbing zippy type. And Zerha's a combination of those two in that sense, where again, they've got the power, they've got the speed, he's got this, all this strength, and he can mark the ball and, do all that sort of stuff. And that is definitely a defensive flaw, or a position that has been absent for probably quite some time. The only other player that realistically could, other than Williams, would be Taylor Duray, but he's too small for the task. But he's got the defensive mindset and the nous to, to stick to the task. But I think that's probably just pushing it for him.
I was thinking Williams as I was just going through it, but as you say, Nick, I think the AFL have him rated as the 5th best winger in the competition this year.
At the moment, there's a few others that are up there. D'Ambrosio and Gordon, I think, and a couple of others that I've gone blank on. But yeah, he's had some fantastic footy this year.
Yeah, so I'm just kind of reluctant to take him out of that spot if he is playing that well.
Likewise.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, wow. Well, who knows? Because he's an interesting matchup, and he's sort of hit form as well the last few weeks after the bye. I think most of the North fans were very over Zerha a little bit. Marnie, my co-host, said a great line, which is incredibly true at the start of the season, that Zerha's got as much to prove to us as we have to him for a contract extension. I think that's very, very true. And up until the bye, I would have said, see you later, Cam, but he's been very, very good the last few weeks. We've got a few minutes left on the chat. So what I'll do just to wrap this up, both you guys, we'll go to Matt first, but give me a tip. And how do you think this game's going to go?
I think it's going to be pretty close, actually. I think we're going to get into the second half, and there's still going to be both sides that are in with a shout. I've got to go the Bulldogs, just for a couple of reasons. Firstly, because you can't tip against the Bulldogs. Secondly, I think their form over the past month and a half, as we sort of touched on at the start of the program, warrants a bit more faith being invested in them. North will definitely pick up a few more wins, and I think I heard someone say the other week that the North's dark days are past them now. They are going to win, more and more games as the seasons come along. They're no longer that cellar dweller bottom 2 team anymore. So they will pick up more wins before they finish the campaign. But I suspect that the Dogs will edge them. It won't be by 100 odd points. We won't be seeing Josh Bruce kick 10.
Thank God.
Unfortunately. But I think the Dogs probably in the region of 4 goals. And maybe it's not the biggest win in the world, but given the competition for spots, 4 points is 4 points, and you'll take them regardless of the margin. Yeah,
absolutely. Nick, do you agree with that?
I couldn't have said it better, to be honest. And in that sense, yeah, exactly. The way that this competition's been going this year, the only clear-cut tip has generally been tip against Richmond or tip the Swans. So I think across the grand scheme of things...
that wouldn't have worked in the Sydney-Richmond game.
Yeah. No, that wouldn't have worked in the Sydney-Richmond game. Tip the draw. That was close enough to a draw. That was only 5 points. So, but generally, look, again, yeah, we probably should get it done by 4 or 5 goals, touch wood in our case. But I do really think that, look, there are a bit of nerves on my end to wondering about what can be done, because North Melbourne is playing some good football as well. And it's exciting to see on a neutral perspective. I just hope it disappears for one more week. But that eventual next win will probably be exceptionally likely. I was seriously cheering very much for you guys over the last few rounds to see what can be done and picking up those 4 points. But
we've got the Gold Coast, I think, after you guys. So that's one that I feel like is
that's at Marvel too. So that'll be something that they
you can have that one
away from home. So you can
definitely have that one.
Well, look, I appreciate that, guys. If you'll give us that one, I guess for me, I kind of feel that I think you're right. Like, to be honest, I think we're a chance, but realistically, I think the Dogs probably by by three or four goals. So, look, I hate to tip against this, but I got to be realistic. But look, we do have to wrap it up there. So I will say thank you to you guys for coming on and giving me some of your time. If anyone listening has any Bulldogs fans in their life, please send them over to the Salty Bulldog to hear these lads have a chat. They do great stuff and clearly a lot of insights. So thank you guys for coming on and joining me.
Thank you, Josh. A pleasure.
No, it's been fantastic. Join in the chorus, everyone. North Melbourne's on the ball.
Unbelievable. Thanks, guys. Cheers. Thank you so much to Matt and Nic for that interview. Brilliant stuff. Very, very good Bulldogs knowledge. And I learned a lot. Two knowledgeable guys. So thank you for your contribution, lads. And may the best team win. Hopefully it's us. But thank you again, legends. Okay. Let's get into, let's go live team reaction. I've been cutting hair all day, guys. There was a guy called Josh who came in today, had a good chat. I suggested maybe we should bring in Biggie Newen, and he looked like he wanted to punch me. So that's fair enough. It was a good chat, Josh. You know I'm joking. Anyway, what can we do this week? My thoughts on this. The scary bit, like we touched on in the preview there, is the Bulldogs' tall forward line. I'm going to assume Darcy and Norton are going to be playing. Waitman is a scary prospect. Hugo Hagen, I think, is a little bit disappointing so far, but has a lot of potential. But their forward line's dangerous. Rory Lobb. That was another thing I talked about with Josh. When I said on the preview just then that I think Rory Lobb is a potential trade target, I was quickly suggested absolutely not. I didn't know he was his age as well. Apparently he's late. I have to look it up. I'm not 100% sure, but if he's around 30 years old, probably not. But I just think that archetype of player. But if you guys got upset at me saying I'd like Rory Lobb, not the ideal player, but I think that archetype and look, I think he can be a good footballer. We're North, we're at the bottom of the ladder. We can't hope to get a bloody Charlie Curnow in, can we? So anyway, maybe I didn't mean it quite as seriously as I meant it then, but I think that archetype of player is good, just to justify my comments, because I know you guys get mad. Anyway, what can we do? Toby Pink is questionable. I would personally take Toby Pink out of this team. I apologise, close to a flag, boys. I know he's a favourite, and the Toby Pink chant was a fun time, but we have to leave that behind at some point. I just don't think he's good enough. I would rather play a few different players. I would probably just swap Dawson, Callum Dawson straight in for Toby Pink, personally, and play a slightly smaller forward line. I mean, Tickle, Zerha, and Larky down there is fine for me. And then, Core, Combin, and Callum Dawson should be enough. That is probably all I would do. I'd love to bring McKercher back into this team. My gut tells me he won't come in this week, to be honest. Looks good in the VFL. I feel like they'll be slow with him. I personally would bring in McKercher. Who would I take out? Oh, I don't know. After a performance like we put in last week, I don't really know. I think Dylan Stephens hopefully is going to be in the best 22. But hey, I don't know who I'd take out, guys. I'd usually say Tucker or Curtis Taylor. They're sort of doing their role. Up forward, I mean, Eddie Ford's fine. Paul Curtis may have been a little bit down, but, he can spark into life any second, deserves it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know who I'd take out. Will Phil, obviously, has been playing quite well. So, yeah, not many people. Honestly, and no one's going to like this. I'm not saying to drop him, but I think Tom Powell's probably been our weakest player the last couple of games. So, yeah. Anyway, I would just go Pink out, Callum Dawson in. I don't think there's any other injuries. I know Toby Pink was the only one under an injury cloud. It's just a test, though. But that's what I would probably do. I'd love to see a Bergman or and a McKercher in this team, Hardiman. But yeah, we're just playing too well. And what a good problem to have. So that's all I would probably say. Let's have a look and see what we've done. George, no, not George. Oh, wow. George Wardlaw out. Well, we can't win now. That is for sure. Callum Dawson in, Wardlaw out. Oh, God. Well, that has taken the wind out of my sails, guys. Other than that, LDU, 100 games. Well done, LDU. Crazy, he's played 100 already. Yeah, wow. George Wardlaw injured. I did listen to the press conference, and Clarko said he got a knock at training. but he said it would be fine, and now he's out. So hopefully it's a week precautionary, but God, I hate that. He's been phenomenal. So, yeah, that sucks. That sucks. I love George Wardlaw, and he deserves to play. Obviously, I know he didn't get omitted, but I reckon that is a massive chink in our chances of winning this game. I know I didn't tip us. I think maybe around the 3-goal mark, but without Wardlaw and the dominance they could have out of clearance, I think that swings it a lot personally. I know we've got good players in there, but yeah, I don't know. Liam Shields, I forgot about him. That's probably who I'd swap for McKercher. Anyway, yeah, Toby Pink's still in. Ugh. Yeah, it's fine. God, you know what? Live team reaction was way more fun when we were rubbish. I'm sick of not making crazy changes every week to try different things. Hardiman, Sellers, Robert Hansen Jr. are the emergencies, which is pretty okay. Other than that, yeah, oh God, not Wardlaw. I love George. Callan Dawson in makes a lot of sense. Now, who would I play on who? That's a good one to go with. For them in, Aaron Norton in, Oscar Baker in, Sam Darcy in, Baku Kumis out, Caleb Daniel and Anthony Scott. Who plays on Jamar Ugle-Hagan? Who plays on Ugle-Hagan? Probably a Charlie Comben. I think Core has to go to Sam Darcy. I just feel like Ugle-Hagan's too agile. I know the height difference, but Ben King was 200 centimeters and Aiden Core played very well on him. Charlie Comben athletically will probably be able to go with Ugle-Hagan more. Toby Pink on, I guess. Ugh. And then we just pray, I guess. Jackson Archer, I guess he's getting the job on our friend Cody Waitman. And who cares the rest, I guess. So, yeah, look, it'll be very interesting. I mean, Jerry and English is a good matchup, but their midfield is scary. I guess Rory Lobb is going to be pushing down there as well as a backup ruck. That might be a place we can take advantage of them, but I guess Toby Pink's got to go to them. And who goes to Jamar? Maybe Archer has to, because I don't want McDonald. Yeah, it's crazy we're going in undersized in the back line. Callan Dawson, of course. You know what? Put Dawson on Ugle-Hagan. Put Core on Sam Darcy. Comben can sort of intercept / Norton. And Toby Pink, he's probably going to play forward of wherever he plays. Doesn't really matter. Should be the reserves. Anyway, we'll see who's the sub as well. I guess Dylan Stevens will be again, even though I'd probably like to give him a better run. But hey, anyway, yeah, I'm gutted about Wardlaw, guys. I think that really. Do you guys agree? Let me know if you guys agree. Like, I think Wardlaw is so crucial. We need LDU and Wardlaw there. If one of those guys isn't there, I just can't see us clicking the same. We've been fantastic from stoppage, and Bont, Trelaw, Libba, like all the McRae, all these guys are gonna take advantage. Riley Sanders as well. He's been doing all right lately. Yeah, I'm a bit scared this weekend now, to be honest with you guys. Let me know if I'm overreacting. I don't think I am, but yeah, terrified. Anyway, what are we going to do now? The barbershop. If you guys want to come down for a haircut, Black and Brown Barbershop in Mitcham, across the road from Mitcham Station, jump on the website. You can request me, put further north in the comments so I know you're a podcast listener, so I give you extra special service. Not that kind of extra special service unless you got $20. So get down, chat north, rev up Big Ant. We love it. Okay, start the jazz. So this week at the barbershop, what has everyone been talking about with North Melbourne? Obviously, North have put together 3 weeks and people are starting to take notice. People are starting to take notice of us. Now, the one thing that I've realised people are doing with North Melbourne this week, and what a lot of people have come in and been talking about, is I wanted North Melbourne to win. I was really cheering for North. All my mates were going for North. And that's nice. It's nice that people like us. But you know what's not nice? Pity. Pity's not nice. And the only reason everyone's going for us is because we're not a threat yet. And as much as I like that everyone's sort of backing North, backing the little guy, it does come from a place of disrespect and come from a place of, we know you can't hurt us, so we're going to go for you because you're a bit harmless. That's been the main chat coming out of people. And they're very friendly. They're very nice. People are like, man, North have some guns. We're talking Sheezers, Wardlaws, LDUs, Larkies, and so on and so forth. People are taking notice of Jackson Archer, Charlie Comben, Paul Curtis, Eddie Ford. People are taking notice, which is great. But I don't know how I feel about everyone supporting North Melbourne just because we're the little guy. And we've been so bad for so long that we're starting to play better. And people are like, oh, they're playing better. I want to root for the underdog. We've always been an underdog, but not out of pity. So that's my spiel for this week of the Barbershop, guys. I enjoy everyone following North Melbourne loosely, but I don't like where it comes from. And hopefully we're hated for being really, really good one day. Stop the jazz. All right, let's finish this stuff off. We're locking in the Richmond game for the Tristan Jerry helmet game. I know I've talked about this and I've said I'm going to make a video. I've been incredibly busy at work. That is my goal for the weekend, is to make a video just explaining the whole process. I talked about the Temu link, and it is on Temu. I posted a link. I tried to send a link to somebody who asked me for it to buy it, and the link was so long it wouldn't paste. So I don't care where. It doesn't have to be Temu. You guys get a Tristan Jerry helmet as cheap as possible anywhere you can. Marketplace, Wish, Temu, doesn't matter. If you want the link, I'll try and post it. If you want to, just message me and I'll try and send it to you. But the plan is round 21, Bay 29. Even if you're not in Bay 29, the plan is to get a photo with Tristan Jerry with heaps of people dressed as Helmet Jerry. So what we're going to do, everyone in Bay 29 needs to have one. If you're not in Bay 29, we're going to try to see if we can get everyone into Bay 29 just for a photo to stand with Tristan Jerry. We don't know if he'll take a photo with us. We're going to try and reach out to a couple of people we know and see if we can get a little bit of this is going to be happening. I'll let you guys know when we know. But regardless, at least I want everyone in Tristan Jerry helmets. I want people to stick a bit of paper over the number on the back and write 38. And at least we got to get on Fox Footy. That's the minimum goal here. Ultimate goal, photo with Helmet Jerry. The floor of this experiment is we get on Fox Footy. So round 21 against Richmond, Temu, Wish, Facebook Marketplace, get helmets and get down to the game. We're going to at least get all the Bay cheering. It's going to be a lot of fun. So once again, I'll make a little video explaining this. That's my goal for the weekend. I know I've been saying it for 2 weeks. I will get there. Give me a break. Okay. Tips, 100% lock tips this week. You guys know how good I am at tipping. I never get them wrong. Brisbane and Melbourne. Brisbane, absolutely. After last week's performance, and Melbourne, I mean, we nearly did them. So, hey, Melbourne will lose. Brisbane will win. Dogs, North. You know, I did tip before. I think it's probably going to be a little bit bigger of a loss now. I don't like to be the negative guy. Marnie would kill me. But I think without Wardlaw there, that really hurts us. He's our heart and soul. So, yeah, hope maybe 4 or 5 goals to the Dogs. I think it'll feel a little bit back down to earth for us. But then the next week, is it Sydney or the Gold Coast? I think it's the Gold Coast. It's one or the other. Then we beat the Gold Coast whenever we play them. Sydney Freo. Sydney, do not tip against Sydney. That is a stupid thing. I know people want to pretend that Carlton's in the realm. You can keep pretending. They're 3 games behind the Swans and have like 35% less in their percentage. The Swans are the best team. There's a gap. Deal with it, Blues fans. You're too hyped on your team. You'll be knocked out in the second round again. Gold Coast, Collingwood. Collingwood. I don't rate the Gold Coast at all. Anyone who thinks they're going to win a premiership next few years or make the finals is joking. Please watch football. Adelaide GWS. Oh, that's interesting. I guess Adelaide. Yeah, I'll go GWS, but I kind of feel it's a bit of a danger game for the Giants. The Giants haven't been quite as good as what maybe they looked at the start of the season. So I'll go the Giants in Adelaide. Essendon Geelong, game of the round. Game of the round. Maybe West Coast Hawthorn is, but game of the round for me. Whoever loses this one, I said this last week about the Cats, and I'm ready to write them off. Not as a final, like a top 8 team, but as they're not going to challenge for a premiership. I think Essendon win this one. I think Essendon win it, and the Cats are done. That's my gut feel. That's my gut feel. We don't like Essendon. I understand that. But I'm tipping with my head, not my heart. To be honest, I dislike Geelong more than Essendon. I know Essendon's the enemy and people are going to be mad at me. Once again, I was talking to Josh at the barbershop about this. Josh, you're listening to this. You're getting a lot of airtime on here today. And because I wasn't there for the 90s, I don't quite have the animosity towards Essendon that everyone through the 90s has. I know they're the enemy and I'm fully on board to hate them so much once we get some rivalry back. But at this current time, I've seen Geelong win too many games. So I'm going to tip Essendon. Geelong, you're too old, finally. Port St Kilda. That's actually a huge game too. Jesus, the last 4 games are all crackers. The first 4 are kind of boring, except the North one, of course. Give me the Saints. Give me the Saints. Port are done, and it is beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Look, I loved sitting there watching Port score like 30 points for the majority of that game. So, yeah, Port lose, Saints win at Marvel. Jeez, if Port lose that, Hinkley will be wheeled out on a trolley, basically. Richmond, Carlton smash Richmond. If Carlton don't smash Richmond, they can't win the premiership. You heard it here first. And West Coast Hawthorn. Give me West Coast. Give me West Coast. Over there, Hawthorn. I think the bye came at the worst time for Hawthorn. They were humming. I've had a lot of Hawthorn chat this week. This could be another barbershop conversation, but maybe I'll say it for next week if the chats continue. Give me West Coast over there. Lock in those tips, guys. Lock in those tips. All right. Well, other than that, I think we're pretty much done. We're pretty much done. Thank you for tuning in again, everybody. Thank you to the watchers on YouTube. Please subscribe on YouTube. Even if you don't watch it on YouTube, it helps. I want to get to 1,000 by the end of the year. I've been banging on about it. Marnie will kill me if we don't get to 1,000 by the end of the year. Instagram is tracking nicely. We're going to hit 1,000 on Instagram by the end of the year. Thank you to everyone on the gram. We're not as active on Facebook, and Marnie handles the Twitter. I don't even know what goes on over there. But Facebook, I'd like to try and post some more. But hey, my promises, as you guys know, sometimes don't come to fruition. So anyway, follow us. Let's have fun. North Melbourne is fun. Let's hope we can pull something out of the bag against the Dogs. These guys have been our bogey side for so long. Which player is going to be the next Josh Bruce? Which player is going to kick 10 who's not very good? Riley West, 10-goal game coming. All right. Talk to you guys. When is it? Saturday. We'll probably be out Sunday afternoon or Monday morning. It'll be one or the other. So we'll chat to you then. Get your helmet sorted. If you need help finding a helmet, message me. I will get you one. I won't get it for you. I'll tell you how to get it. I'm not that rich. And we'll get the Close to a Flag boys involved as well. So we get so many helmets at that game. Round 21 against Richmond. Do not forget. All right, guys. I'm out of here. See you later. Go North. I miss you, George. Okay, sorry. I'm back again. I did just read that Wardlaw's out in concussion protocol. Which apparently is going to be out for 2 weeks, which means he misses the Suns game. That has just taken every bit of wind out of every sail I possess. I'm really scared to go into these 2 games without George Wardlaw. Dogs, I maybe think is a bit tough for us, but the Suns was absolutely winnable. I'm not saying we can't win it anymore, but no Wardlaw is massive. Look, I'm all about keeping people's heads safe, but missing 2 games in concussion protocol is rubbish. Give him a week off and it should be fine. Anyway, yeah, I just want to let you guys know I just found that out. The reason is I don't look at my phone before I record this because I don't want to spoil the team lineups. So that is why I was not in the know. Please don't think I don't know anything about North Melbourne. Anyway, concussion for George, apparently out 2 games, really devastating because we need him against the Suns. But hey, I guess time for Kane Turner to come back and do something. Anyway, I'm actually gone now. Bye.